The Gurkhas are legendary warriors. Is this a legendary boot? G'day, welcome back to Bootlosophy. My name is Tek. I acknowledge the region on which I work and live as Wajak Nongabuja. Am I holding in my hand a piece of history? Because that is what they're named after. This is Craft & Glory's 8-inch Gurkha boot from their new Gurkha collection. They make 6 and 8-inch combat style boots in this collection, as well as a sturdy pair of derby shoes in a variety of their buffalo leathers. The Gurkhas are, of course, a famous warrior people. Americans may not know much about them, but they are steeply lauded in the annals of British and colonial history. The Gurkha or Gurkhali originated from the hilly country of the Gurkha Principality that expanded to become the Nepalese kingdom in the 1700s and 1800s. The Brits were so impressed with their conquests of the region around Nepal, including the Kathmandu Valley, that after they fought them in the 1810s, started to incorporate them into the British East India Company's army. That's the precursor of the 1900s Indian Army that was in fact the British-controlled army in India. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, British Gurkha regiments have fought in Burma, Afghanistan, Northeast India, and the Indian Northwest frontier, and even Malta during the Russo-Turkish War of 1870, and believe it or not, China during the Boxer Rebellion of 1900. They also served as British regiments in the Brigade of Gurkhas in World War I in France, Turkey, Palestine and Iraq. In World War II, they fought in the European campaign in Syria, North Africa, Italy and Greece in Montgomery's 8th Army. And in the Pacific Theatre, they fought in Burma, Northeast India, Singapore and Malaya. After Indian independence in 1947, the Gurkha regiments were split between the British Army and the new Indian Army, and other contingents still serve today as a police contingent in Singapore, elite forces in Brunei, and other smaller countries requiring these brave men to bolster their own forces. Since then, British Gurkha Rifles regiments have served in the Falklands War and in the modern Iraqi and Afghanistan conflicts. They are famous not only for their acts of bravery in battle, but also for their crooked machete-sized blade called the kukri. The legend, I'm not sure how apocryphal, is that if a Gurkha draws his kukri in anger, it must taste blood before it can be sheathed again. Britain's highest military decoration for bravery, the Victoria Cross, has been awarded to Gurkhas 26 times, the highest number of any regiment. Gurkha soldiers have also been awarded the George Cross and the Military Cross multiple times in their history. Their dreaded war cry, Ayo Gurkhali, or the Gurkhas are here, is said to be terrifying and blood-curdling at the same time as they charge into battle with their kukri blades drawn. Anyone who opposes them and has heard of the legend of blood on the blade, runs. The 8-inch Gurkha is a combat-style boot. It sits on a commando-style lugged sole with a solid size and chunky round cap toe, a meaty single-piece backstay, chunky reinforced quarters, and antique brass hardware. As befits the nomenclature, it is an 8-inch high boot, and at the outside of the shaft has a small, penknife holder. I'm not a fan of it because I have pockets, but boys will be boys. It came with nylon laces, but I replaced them for these rawhide laces from White's. Made by Indian brand Craft & Glory, it is sturdily built out of buffalo leather. That's the Asian water buffalo, not the American bison. Craft & Glory has been getting a lot of attention lately, included as part of a resurgence of Indian boot brands being discovered by boot collectors and reviewers, and I think deservedly so. Craft & Glory was founded by Rohit and Nikita Anand in the mid-20-teens. They started by making handmade, everyday leather gear like bags and jackets and everyday carry items like wallets and so on, using a team of leatherwork craftsmen and artisans. Now, initially they sold their products in their store in Delhi, but then moved online to an international market and adding the Craft & Glory brand in footwear. Now, many of my viewers will know that India has had a 2-century history in making good quality recraftable footwear. The British brought a lot of their craft to India during the colonial days to take advantage of cheaper manufacturing costs, and not to forget the contribution of Indian footwear in the chukka boot and the jodhpur boot. Chukka is Hindi for a turn in the game of polo, and Jodhpur is a city in Rajasthan. Many of my viewers will also know that several Northampton brands like Grenson, for example, Chini, they have a second line of footwear made in India, just as good quality but cheaper due to manufacturing costs. Now, in many ways, the two Indian brands I know best, Craft and Glory and Blackbird, represent the sturdy end and the dressy end of quality bootmaking in India. In fact, I'm planning a video where I compare the philosophy of the two brands to the likes of Nix and Viberg. Right, let's go straight into construction. Hey, don't forget at this point to click on like down below, yeah? And while down there, go and check out my affiliate link to Craft and Glory as well if you're thinking of getting a pair. It'll help me out if you buy through that link. Righto, let's start from the bottom. The outsole is a proprietary commando lug sole, very similar to the Vibram 100 outsole, but by feel is made of a softer rubber compound and feels it when you put your feet down. It is a single unit with the heel block molded on as well. The outsole is attached to the uppers using the Goodyear welt construction method, where the veg-tanned leather insole inside the boot is stitched to the uppers leather and into the inside edge of the leather welt. The outsole is then stitched to the outside edge of the welt, and so provides water resistance because the stitch holes don't go all the way through from outside to inside. And obviously it's recraftable when your rubber outsole wears out. To see more about how this construction works, go and see my video about the 4 main types of construction. Now, this is a funny welt. It looks like a 270-degree welt, which means that the welt theoretically goes around the front of the boot only, with the back end then glued and nailed. In fact, you see the outside welt stitch going around the front 3/4 only, it doesn't come around the back. But if you look at the edge, you see the thickness of the welt goes all the way around the boot, only it seems to be stitched into the inside of the boot at the back. I guess that's possible, but I've never seen it done this way before. You can see on the edge a 3mm thick welt going all the way around, and in between that and the rubber outsole is a 4mm thick veg-tan midsole. Inside the boot, between the midsole and the 4mm thick, also veg-tan insole, is a cork filler in which is inserted a steel shank between the heel and the forefoot for stability and arch support. Still inside the boot, they give you a leather-topped foam removable insole for comfort. I'm not going to take it out. Unlike my Craft and Glory hike boots, if you remove that foam insole and look down the shaft, you don't see screws going down into the heel block, but regular nails. The vamp is lined with a 1.4mm thick leather lining on the inside, but the shaft is unlined. The tongue is a generous and nearly fully gusseted tongue up to the last 2 speed hooks. You have to fold it over like a Pacific Northwest work boot. The edges of the collar and the hardware reinforcements is cut leather as befits a rugged combat boot. The hardware is partly antique brass. It is a little bright despite the antiquing, and they comprise 7 eyelets and 4 speed hooks up that 8-inch shaft. They actually feel really solid, and they're well placed and attached, and they're nicely backed to avoid any scratchy bits. Coming outside now, the uppers are distressed brown, 2mm thick, oil-tanned, full-grain buffalo leather. As I said earlier, Asian water buffalo leather, and the grain is impressive. I walked across a raging river the first week I had these. Yes, all right. It was a manicured park with a children's playground on one side and a man-made lake and fountain on the other side. And I was early enough not to have anyone else around, so I stepped into a concrete water feature that spills into the lake. But I did stand there for a couple of minutes. The leather was totally waterproof, and some of the surface oils wore off and the grain was revealed, particularly at the toe cap, showing this spotty and large pore hole effect. The leather is soft and supple and has a soft, dry feel to it. And there is a subtle pull-up effect as well. The stitching looks phenomenally strong. Quadruple at the quarters, plus a rivet. triple at the backstay, and a double at the toe cap. The heel counter flexes like leather rather than plastic. Feeling inside, I'm sure this is a real toe cap. That's a real second piece of leather put on top of a full vamp piece. All in all, it just feels sturdy despite a comparatively lightweight when compared to P&W boots. I'm just going to take an educated guess at Leathercare because the website is silent. Now, this is quite a dry feeling oil tanned leather. Its appearance is matte and distressed, and I'm assuming that you want to maintain that. Now, needless to say, the best ways to care for leather is to brush it often, keeping dirt and dust away, and if it's dirty, just wipe it with a damp cloth. And if you have to because of stuck down dirt, then saddle soap it to clean. I don't see any problems with that. In terms of conditioning, feeling this leather, I'd say to use something that won't darken it, that won't make it too shiny if it contains too much wax, and it won't shine up this sort of distressed look. Now, my guess when it comes to conditioning is something like Bic 4 in the first instance, and possibly something oilier like R.M. Williams's saddle and leather conditioner as the leather really starts to age. Now, that's my opinion, so take it with your pinch of salt. As for sizing, the website provides US sizing. Now, I'm a US 8.5 in D width on the Brannock device, but after discussing my size with them, they shipped me a US 8 in supposedly double E width. I'm not actually sure it's a double E, but it definitely is wider than a normal D, and to be honest, it feels really good. Not as snug maybe as much as I'd like, but certainly very comfortable. My advice is to email them to dial in your size, and doing that, they seem to get a pretty good handle on what to recommend. In this labeled 8EE, the length of heel to toe is good, as is the length heel to ball. The ball of the foot is wide enough to be a little less than snug, but the heel and waist seems locked in. The bump toe seems to give me enough volume in the toe box and correspondingly up into the instep. However, the round toe is slightly less than anatomical on this side, and I feel sometimes that my big toe rubs up against the edge. Fitting comfortably, however, the combination of leather, cork, and slightly squishy rubber under my feet, and with the addition of that foam back removable insole, it is pretty squishy to walk in and hence pretty comfortable. If you are tempted to remove the foam insole, I have to tell you that the leather insole, or the footbed inside, is possibly not treated to take a sweaty foot. It looks like quite a raw, untreated veg tan surface. So there you are. I hope you like this review. As we finish, I'll take a look at value. Their website lists this at $255 USD. I'm recording in late April 2025, in fact it's May tomorrow, so I'm not sure how future US tariffs will affect this price. At that price though, the value is quite incredible in my honest opinion. It's under the price of a Red Wing Iron Ranger and even cheaper than Thursday's Black Label boots, and I think at least as well made. Sure, the leather is an Indian tanned Asian buffalo, but hey, I think it's pretty good under my hands and it looks pretty good. For the quality of construction, I don't think you can better that price to quality ratio. The knife pouch is a bit naff, but I can live with it as a design choice. Okay, so that's it. Like the video? Click on like. And if you're not subscribed, go on, do it. I'll be bringing you more boot reviews and now and then some gear reviews, so don't miss them. Take care out there. See you next week.